We are live. How is everybody today?
Awa.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Well, not everybody. We are missing Gesh. We are missing Gesh today. Ethan has taken the vaccine, and I believe this is the second dose he's gotten. Yeah.
Which is a bitch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, both doses were a bitch, honestly.
My first dose was a bitch.
In any case, Gesh will still be in the campaign. I will be doing just some movement acting for Gesh, but Ethan is getting some well-deserved rest. Beyond that, hello, I am your DM, Connor Man. With me, as always, is M, Finn, Vinn, and Sophie. The lovely Sophie. And
hello. Why don't we get described as lovely?
Have you looked at yourself?
Okay. All right.
Okay. No.
Did Sophie leave?
Sophie
Yes.
just left. Oh, that left a bad taste in my mouth.
She said goodbye.
What kind of bullshit was that?
Unbelievable.
I'm about to turn my camera off the entire thing.
All right. So before we get started today, does anybody have any announcements? Any housekeeping?
Not high.
Wink. Wink.
Wink, wink. I do have some art to share that Emily did of Fenkin Farwarin. So I will pull that up.
I was told to say that it was done by my sexy bro who has no Twitter or Instagram or anything. But you can see it's written Psycho Kai on it. But
Psycho Kai right there. Look at that. That is amazing.
So good.
You'll start crying simultaneously.
You really went the Forest Princess route when you were designing Fenkin, didn't you?
what did you say?
I said you really went the Forest Princess Mononoke route when it came to designing Fenkin.
Listen,
Yeah.
it's been like a long dream of mine to have an Uzi like that, and I never made one, and I just saw my chance and I went for it.
Speaking of Princess Mononoke, my dad has been doing some decoration work out in the backyard, and he's put up like little lawn gnomes and little fairy houses and all that, and it's been great. But he pointed something out to me, and he was like, "Look, I found this little 10-pack of aliens." And I was like, "Little alien? Yeah, little clay aliens." And he picked one up to show me, and it wasn't an alien; it was those little forest spirits from Princess Mononoke.
Oh, adorable.
So at first my brain was like, "Oh my god, Dad's watching anime now," and then my second thought was like, "There's no way he knows what things are."
No, simply no way.
That's so fun.
He's there talking about Spirited Away.
Another funny story about that. My dad does these crossword puzzles, and sometimes I'll be there to help him, but I can never answer any of them because all the questions are bullshit. But apparently, while I was at school, there was the one that I could have answered, and it was who was the director and main artist for the movie Princess Mononoke.
Yeah.
Which
You
I
nailed
answered,
it.
But
Good job.
okay. Without any further ado, is everybody ready to get started?
Yes.
All right. Vinn, you got your absurd notebook ready to go?
Of course I do.
Of course.
I had my D&D game yesterday, and I didn't bring my notebook with me, and I almost collapsed. I made Allie, who is broken, go get me paper and clipboard and pens.
It's broken.
Well-
My leg's broke, and I said, "Bitch, go get me some stuff. I can't play D&D without my stuff."
Go and get out of your bed with your broken legs and get me.
She was sitting in the chair because she was dyeing her hair pink.
Well, I'm glad you have your priorities straight.
I do. She's tired of being doted on, so she got up and got it for me. I didn't actually ask.
Aww.
Also, for anybody watching right now, recently one of Critical Role's lead stylists who puts together the costumes and a lot of the things that the players wear on Critical Role. Recently, her studio did burn down, and a lot of her costumes and her projects were in that. But thankfully, right now, Critical Role has a GoFundMe going on right now for that. So if you want to head over there and donate, I've already thrown a couple bucks in there, because just a little payback for the years and years of entertainment they've given us.
Yeah.
And the inspiration that they've given me to start Dice Dogs. So, yeah. Go
If we remember, we'll put the link in the description box.
Exactly. Yep. I will make sure to do that.
Yeah.
But in any case, let's begin this week's episode.
Yay!
Critical Role, Dice Dogs.
Critical Role.
The first call that we get from Matt Mercer isn't going to be, "Hey, do you want to collab?" It's going to be, "Hey, we're suing you."
Copyright infringement.
Yeah.
Matt Mercer, even if you are suing me, please do call. I would really like to talk to. Okay.
No, we're not monetized. It's fine.
So, if you guys remember, last time we left off after you guys were able to get Opportunity Knox out of jail after defeating the strange serpent that lay dormant within the town of Trostenwald. And you also kind of went about your day doing some basic shopping, maybe some research around town, and just getting some general much-needed rest and relaxation. But specifically where we left off last time was you guys sitting down to enjoy a nice meal in one of the Lockward's nicer taverns, that being the Old Mudhole Tavern.
That was a nicer tavern.
And while a brawl did seem to break out before any of you did arrive there, you were able to procure a few rooms. I believe it was 2 of the larger rooms, each one with 2 beds within. But that in mind, after Ozla and Nox had her conversation, Fenkin, Gesh, and Dhuur'in did eventually return to the Mudhole Tavern. And that is where we're going to be picking up, with everybody heading upstairs to get ready for bed. So after sitting down to a nice meal at the Mudhole Tavern, which I'm going to say costed everybody about 5 gold pieces.
Damn it.
I don't have any, so just take that out of Gesh's inventory.
I'll make a note of that.
Does Gesh have enough?
Lovely. I'm sure he does. He hasn't spent his money, really, yeah.
I would pull out my 1 gold and 2 copper, and he'd be like, no.
Put that down. Put that away.
If anybody couldn't pay, Borgo did cough up a few coins from a surprisingly thick coin purse, believe it or not.
He's a rich kid.
But yeah, after receiving your meal with bellies full of mead and ale and wine, probably water for Fenkin, everybody with a sleepy princess in tow, along with a rather curious Nilo who's still a bit uncertain about being around all this civility, you guys make your way upstairs to find the 2 rooms that Opportunity Knox had procured for you in the night. And the hallways of the Mudhole Tavern, again, the Mudhole Tavern's a bit like a dive bar, so it's a lot of tight spaces upstairs, but you are eventually able to turn a corner and find the 2 doors that have the corresponding numbers to the keys that Knox was given. And as you each open up the doors, you realize a pretty instant problem. There are several members of this party and only 2 beds per room.
I'm holding on to Gesh's arm. This is pretty obvious.
This is it?
Yes.
Why?
The reason why is because she didn't have that much money, but at the accusatory tone, She looks at Fenkin with a smile and shrugs and says, "For fun."
This is not my idea of fun.
No, nothing is your idea of fun.
Just glares at you.
I walk into one of the rooms with Gesh.
Yeah. So Gesh and Dhuur'in almost immediately walk into the rightmost room and begin unpacking their things and setting them aside, leaving just Borgub, Ozla, Fenkin, and Nox to figure out their accommodations. And Borgub's kind of like looking nervously from left to right, and he says, I have a bedroll that I can lay out if that frees up enough space. I don't mind, really.
I think the cat can take the bedroll, since this is, after all, her fault.
Nox shrugs a little bit and says, "Very well." And, sorry, my voice is hoarse. And she kind of just turns to her backpack to start taking out her bedroll, very unbothered.
Borgub will rush up. No, really, Miss Nox, it's okay. I'll sleep on the bedroll. It's fine, really.
She kind of sighs and looks back at them and says, "Children, do I have to help you figure out sleeping arrangements?"
He blinks. I'm 23.
Child.
The child.
I am 100 years older than you.
She points at Ozla and Borgub and says, "You two share a bed. Fenkin, get your own bed. Yes. And then we have one bed remaining. I will take that one."
You guys watch as Borgub jumps a bit, his eyes wide, the hat of disguise falling off his head, and him returning to a goblin. And you see that his face is like bright green, and he's like, and he's kind of like looking at you guys.
I'm not gonna bite you.
I didn't say.
If you can sleep with Fen if you want.
He looks over at Fenkin.
He's like, yeah.
He's giving him like a threatening look, like, try me.
Or maybe not.
I don't want to be in the way. Is what I'm trying to say.
Oz stands next to her. She sort of does like, she sort of like measures their height, and she's like, "You're not that much bigger than me. The ears are a bit, but like, you're not that much bigger than me." Oh, she just starts like giggling a little, and she's like, we can pop a pillow wall if that's what you want.
No, that's not what I'm saying. And almost as if on cue, trying to like switch the conversation. Does anybody mind if I just do my nighttime benedictions really quick?
Go for it.
All right. So, you guys watch as Borgub kind of like removes his backpack, and with still all of his like working leathers on, including the big heavy gloves that you've seen him wear from all the time. He kind of like removes what appears to be a small, kind of like a shoebox kind of sized compartment out of his bag, and he makes his way over to an undisturbed corner of the room. And you watch as from the box he pulls out 2 clay pots, about 4 sticks of incense, a set of iron tongs, a forge hammer that's kind of the hammer itself having a handle that's been worn with age and use. And is Vinn okay?
Yeah, they said their internet's going out.
Okay. I will continue on. Should I wait or continue?
Did they say anything? Yeah, they said give them a minute.
Okay, not a problem. Not a problem.
So who's in which room? Gesh and Dhuur'in dipped into the room on the right.
Yeah, Gesh and Dhuur'in dipped in.
They're not boning yet.
Oh my goodness.
I have some things to do.
It's Pride Month. You have to vote.
It is Pride Month.
It's Happy Pride, by the way. Hey!
Happy Pride.
Kitty's back.
Meow.
Yay.
Hello, Kippy.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Okay.
You
this
are
might be
muffled.
better.
Yeah, you're kind of quiet, but I'll just turn you up.
Yeah, sorry, I have to be on my phone.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Computer's not having it.
So, you guys watch from this kind of wooden box, Borga pulls out his a set of iron tongs that seem to be like the kind that are used at a forge. You know, they're very heavy and they have kind of like leather wrapping at the end. There's 2 small clay pots about the size of your palm, and 4 sticks of what appears to be some kind of incense. And along with that, from his belt, he takes off what appears to be kind of like a single-handed forge hammer, the handle of which is oak and very worn with use and age. And you watch as he sets the box down and takes the tongs and the hammer and kind of sets them side by side. And while he's doing this, he also takes the clay pots and kind of sets them at either side of the box, beside it, putting the incense sticks in there. And finally, he takes the mace off of his belt, kind of slips that off, and rests it before the box, kind of like at an angle like that. And once all that is done, you watch as he clasps his hands over the incense sticks, over the very tips of the incense sticks, and he says a dwarvish word that you've never heard before, even if you do speak dwarvish. And when his hands come away, the incense sticks are lit and smoking very softly, and it kind of fills the room with this sort of sweet, smoky smell. Not like an unbearable campfire kind of smell, but more medicated, if anything. Does anybody here actually speak Dwarvish, or Vinn?
Hi-ho.
Just Eldritch and Undercommon, baby.
What about you, Finn?
Did you say Finn?
Yeah, I said Finn.
No, I speak Elvish.
Okay. All right. So in that case, once everything is all set up, you guys watch as before this kind of like makeshift altar to the Allhammer that Borga has set up, he clasps his leather-clad fingers together and kind of kneels down, and his eyes close as slowly, almost barely above a whisper, he begins to give a prayer in Dwarvish of some kind that seems to go on for about 5 minutes. And even if you can't speak Dwarvish, you can tell that there are certain verses and lines that are being repeated. You hear certain words over and over again. You hear the word Moradin being repeated quite a bit. And kitty. But eventually, about 5 minutes pass, and by the time you guys are done unpacking, and you kind of have, you've kind of had a chance to get undressed into and whatever pajamas that you might wear to bed. By that time, Borgub is done. His eyes open, and he kind of like shakes his hands out a bit, and he starts to clean up his little benediction area.
Aww.
Yeah.
Are Borgub and Ozla rooming with Dhuur'in and Gesh, or are Borgub and Ozla rooming with Nox and Fenkin?
That might actually not work. That might actually work, because I'm assuming Dhuur'in and Gesh are using the same bed.
Yeah, they're gonna share a bed.
Yeah, that jumped out almost immediately to me. So what are you guys doing after, during or after all this?
I'm laying all my books out on the floor.
Okay.
Fenkin is going to the room that the couple is not in and going immediately.
Slamming the door. Oz has probably climbs up on the bed or something, and like she's tried to roll over and go to sleep, just like knock out, but she can hear Borga doing his thing, so she sort of leans over the end of the bed, just watching him. And then when he's finished and he's packing all his stuff up, she looks at him and she says, "What did you pray for?"
I'm sorry. Oh, the prayer. It's just something that I do at night. It's one of the many prayers of the Book of the Allhammer. It's essentially symbolistic of getting a good night's sleep after a long day of hard work. It's just a prayer for a restful sleep, I guess, and good dreams, and that all the people I love are kept safe.
That's really sweet of you, mate.
Well, thank you.
Hoping none of us have any nightmares tonight.
Also,
Yeah.
Finn, what did Nox decide on a sleeping arrangement, or?
She's taking whatever bed is left over. If Oz or Gub are going to that would leave Nox on the opposite bed.
Because from what I understand, Fenkin and Nilo have taken up a bed, and Ozla and Borgub sound like they're going to be taking one of the beds. Dhuur'in and Gesh have a bed in the other room, so it sounds like there's a free bed in that room.
Yes, that is right.
All right. Okay. In that case, is Fenkin just asleep by now, or?
Or immediately.
Curled right up next to Nilo?
Needs his beauty sleep. He's tired.
Okay. So, Ozla, you being the only one awake in the room at the time, you watch as Borgub kind of disappears around a corner to kind of the latrine room, and he comes back out with his leathers kind of like folded up in his hands, and he's wearing what appears to be kind of like a ragged kind of like shirt that's kind of like a ragged sleeping shirt, along with what appears to be some sort of like felt cloth pajama pants that kind of seems a bit too big to him because it's been tied around his waist with what appears to be kind of like a burlap rope. And he puts his leathers down by his backpack, which he has kind of leaned up against the wall, and he kind of looks at the bed and kind of scratches the back of his bald head, just like, "Are you sure this is all right, Miss Highhill? Because I can just sleep on the floor. I really don't mind."
I'm not gonna make you sleep on the floor when you've got a bed right here. Just come on. I'm not gonna. I may kick you in my sleep, but like it's only a little.
He kind of thinks back to when he saw you get struck by lightning, and he's like, okay, well, I mean, I'm durable, I've been told, so I guess that's fine. And he'll kind of like taking the extra time a 3-foot tall person needs to climb up onto a roughly human-sized bed. He will eventually, with your help, he is eventually able to like get up onto the bed and kind of like get under the covers. And Ozla, you'll find that after his benediction, that kind of warmth that he's been radiating this entire time has kind of been kicked up another notch. Where once it was just kind of like almost like the warmth of one of those like pocket warmers that you can get at Walmart. Right now, it's more akin to a space heater that's been plugged in.
Oh, you're really trying to make that one picture canon. Holy shit.
I will not be stopped!
You say like she'll put a wall there, like we don't actually have to do it, and you're like, no. But because she's been used to like not the cold, but like because she's always been on the sea, she's used to like the cold air from the ocean.
Right. So
when she gets under the covers and she just feels like the heat radiating, she goes, "Holy shit!" And she like sort of like shuffles up next to him. She's just like as close as she can be. She's like, "You are so fucking warm."
He like freezes up as he kind of pulls the blankets up over him, and he's just like, "Thank you."
She's like, "Do you have a fever? Wait, are you sick? Should I
Oh, no. I don't get sick. It's just, well, ever since I started following the Allhammer, and ever since I had my major ceremonies done, I've just always sort of done this. I don't really know what it is, but hasn't harmed anything yet, so. Sorry, if it's bothering you, I can just get on the floor. I don't mind.
No. Come here. You are really warm, and I am freezing.
He has gone from green to like purple.
Oh.
She sort of grabs a hold of his shirt and like shoves her face in, and she's just like, stay right there.
So as Ozla starts to drift off to sleep, Borgub having a bit more trouble than her, for obvious reasons, we switch over to the next room where Nox, Dhuur'in, and Gesh are settling down to sleep. And so, is there anything you guys want to do before bed?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
I want to lay all of my books out on the floor and open every single one of them up.
Okay. So, Nox, while you're getting ready for bed in the way that I only assume Nox does, almost like kind of like a sultan, just like surrounding himself with, like grapes and pillows and shit, just on the bed lounging, just eating grapes and shit. You'll eventually look over to see the Dark One, kind of like picking up all of his, putting his backpack down and like fishing out all of his books, including the weird eyeball book that seems to have quite a bit of your own fur on it. And you watch as he sits down. How are you doing this, Dhuur'in? Are you like spreading them out in a circle so you can like turn around and read?
I'm putting all of them in front of me in like a semicircle, like just enough space to open each one, and I'm sitting down cross-legged so that I can reference each book at once, double check and make sure that the Sin of the Lion and the Virtue of the Viper is not blank, as the previous bookstore owner told me it was, because that made me panic. And my goal is to compare Azathoth to all of the approved worships of the Dwendalian Empire.
Okay, so
Go between.
all right. So while this is happening, Gesh has been on your guys' bed this entire time, kind of legs crossed, arms crossed, head down, eyes closed. And
like a dad.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell if he's asleep or not. His breathing seems steady, but he is both a Dragonborn and a monk trained in breathing techniques. So this could just be, how he rests. It's hard to tell. But yeah, so Dhuur'in, God, I don't know how to go about this. So I guess you're first and foremost, Sin of the Lion, Virtue of the Viper is very much not blank. It still has kind of like the journal entry kind of style writing that it did not originally have before when you bought it. That said, though, as you kind of read through your new Black Tome of Azathoth, and the Book of the Mistress that you've had this entire time as well, you've begun to understand that Azathoth is not so much a god in the sense of like the prime deities, but more like a force of just nuclear chaos, a being that is not meant to be understood by mortal things. Even Azathoth might not even be its true name, for even a single syllable of its true name may take thousands of years to pronounce and may leave you in gibbering madness. For that is the nature of the elder things beyond the scope and comprehension of mortal folk. But you'll find, surprisingly, that the other deities worshipped by the other people of this world don't share the same aspects as Azathoth. They don't. They seem to be praised and beloved rather than feared or abhorred. You read about Borgub's deity, the Allhammer, a divine being of home and hearth, of creativity and smithwork, a deity who reinforces the idea of togetherness and unity. You read about Pelor and his divine justice, a golden suit of armor behind Eternity Gates with a burning corona of light as its head, a symbol of justice and peace and order. You read about the Wild Mother and her love of nature and all things growing and green, and for a moment you think of Fenkin. As you read over the passages. By the way, the Theocracies of the Dwendalian Empire, the book that you're kind of like reading about the prime deities about, it's kind of set up in the same. You've seen those old medieval tomes where the black lines are very thick and like to show shading, they just kind of like draw a bunch of little lines closer together. That's kind of like the way this book is set up. It's a rather older book. And if there's a newer edition out there, it likely has better art and better depictions. But this is kind of like from an older era of theological philosophy within the Empire.
Cool.
But yeah, Nox, you as you're getting ready for bed and doing your own nightly rituals, you will eventually look over to see Dhuur'in kind of squatting on the floor and reading through his books, and the book with the eyeball, with the Gesh eyeball, will kind of like roll towards you and blink before closing completely.
Gross.
Don't look at these. Do not look at these. And I've like got my hand over top of the Book of Shadows and the book from my mistress.
As you press your hand down on the Book of Shadows, the spine kind of like presses against the floor, and you hear a very low hiss.
Oh, gross. Nox has she took her armor off a while ago and folded up her things. She's just been kind of like lounging back on her bed. Not really like laying down as if to go to sleep, more just like laying back so that she can watch whatever the hell is going on. And she's just been like not even trying to hide, openly staring Fusion at what he's been doing this whole time. And she raises her eyebrows a little. She says, "What are you doing?"
Reading.
You read all of your books at once?
Yes.
You are very talented, darling.
I have never had so many books before.
She hums a little bit. She nods at the capsule he has. Well, you are growing quite the library, but why this sudden interest in all of the...
I kind of move my hand over to the Sin of the Lion and the Virtue of the Viper, and I tell her, the man at the bookstore said this one was blank. I had to check it. And this one, I move it over to the Theocracies of the Dwendalian Empire. This one is so different from this one. And I move my hand over to my Azathoth book. And then I slam it down on the Azathoth book. You must never read this one.
As you slam your hand down on the Book of Azathoth, this time there's a gurgle and another hiss.
Bro.
Good possibility.
She you see her ears like kind of like twitch back and go flat for a second. He says, I was not intended. Trust.
Good.
What do you mean one of them is blank?
It is not blank. And I pick up the Sin of the Lion and the Virtue of the Viper, and it's open, so I show it to her.
Nox,
is it blank to me?
It is entirely blank to you. There are no words on this page.
She
But
she just like stares at him for a couple of seconds, and then she gets off the bed. She comes over and she says, "Can I see that one for a second?"
Yes.
She picks up the Sin of the Lion and thumbs through it. I assume seeing that all of the pages are blank to her.
All the pages are indeed blank to her.
And she like flips all the way to like the end, and then kind of flips the back, and then you just see this very like flat, confused look on her face the whole time, and then she closes it and she hands it to him and says, "Seems like a good read."
Yes. It is where I read about the gun.
The gun.
The gun.
Yes.
You read about the gun before you got it?
Yes, and I saw it when we were in the basement.
You saw it.
Yes. The sunlight that nobody else saw.
Right. So in the book that nobody else read about the gun, the else.
Yes.
Yeah.
She just kind of goes, and then she sits on the ground. She's like on the opposite side of the little line of books from him.
My
So there's, like,
wall.
two of them. Yeah, the little wall of books. And then she points to the book that he pointed out earlier of the other deity.
Theocracies of the Dwendalian Empire.
Yes, that one. She points to that one. She says, "So this one is new. You just got this one,
I did.
and what
Gesh,
made you pick it up?"
Gesh speaks up. I did.
I did.
I bought it with 2 gold.
Okay, well, regardless, why?
I wanted to see how different my god is.
In what way is your god different?
You will not find it in that book or in any other book. It is much bigger and much more powerful and much colder than any other god.
And your god is the source of power, no?
Yes,
Then you have quite an interesting relation. A relationship that most other people do not have to their god.
it is unique, I think.
She looks at the book of Azathoth. She will not touch it. Even if he did not warn her not to touch it, she's not touching that thing. But she does look at it for a second.
Nox, when you look
Yes.
directly at the Book of Azathoth, you know how when you've been staring at a computer screen for a long time And even when you look away from it to look at just something opaque and different, your eyes start to like, there's like a shock of pain in the back of your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that, but it's constant, just oomph, 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 right in just a pressure in the back of your eyes. And as this is happening, you watch as the blue scales of the book, of the portion that's made of Gesh's skin, start to like rise and ripple in a wave.
Disgusting. she like looks away. Like not only does she look away, but she also like lifts a hand to like cover it from her peripheral vision. Just like I don't want to look at that.
The pain immediately stops as soon as you take your eyes off the book.
Yeah.
Every time
Yeah,
like you even glance towards it, it's just boom, boom, boom in the back of
Yeah.
your head, in the back of your head, but totally fine when you're not looking at it.
Gross. Yeah, she covers it from, and she says, yes, unique is certainly a word that I think describes many things. Dark.
I pull the Tome of Azathoth and my shadow book a little closer to me, a little farther away from Nox.
She kind of scoots back a little bit so that she can start to get back.
Start to head back to what?
She starts to get back up.
Okay.
Well, whatever it is you are looking for in all of these books, I wish you luck, but for tonight, do not stay up. You have a lot of time.
I will be fine. And I will be quiet.
She kind of huffs a little bit and like she almost says like you never are. But she doesn't say that.
When I'm asleep.
She just kind of she just kind of like nods and says, good night.
All right. With that, eventually, Dhuur'in, as Nox gets into bed to go to sleep, you pack up all of your books and things, and you decide to head over to bed with Gesh as well. Gesh, who remains completely unmoving even as you slip into bed and slip to sleep as your eyes begin to close, your lids eventually becoming a bit too heavy to bear. And soon,
No.
they open again. But when they open to darkness. Not just darkness, but nothingness. An eternal, expansive void of nothing. You feel as though there is solid ground beneath you, and as you begin to stand, you realize that you are entirely exposed. Robes, clothing, armor, everything is gone. It is just you, just yourself and your bare skin against the darkness of the world around you. I love how Em grabs her comfort cupcake.
It's a cup of coffee,
Oh my
actually.
god.
Oh.
Yeah, there's not a shred of clothing to safeguard you against the eyes that you feel that are all around you. Even though you seem entirely alone, you feel as though from every direction you are being watched. You can feel the hair on the back of your head begin to prickle. You don't feel safe here. How could anyone feel safe here in this position? But soon you will find that you are most certainly not alone. Because soon you hear the clicking. At first you think perhaps it's an insect scuttling across the ground somewhere. But no, that can't be it. It's far too fleshy a sound. It's far too muffled, wet almost. And then you realize you've heard this sort of clicking before. Whenever somebody cracks their knuckles or pops their shoulder out of place. But you hear it again and again and again in succession. as if the natural movement of whatever creature is making this sound is to move its bones and ligaments and its tissue to best fit its own form. And finally, you see it. Slowly from the darkness, just a few feet in front of you, you see a pair of pale ebony arms begin to reach out from the night. At first you see the hands, the long, skinny hands, with long, fingers, each one 3 feet in length, with far too many knuckles to be anything human, anything elvish or dwarvish. You watch as these hands crawl from the darkness, long red painted nails sinking into the floor that's not there, as they slowly draw themselves out to reveal forearms that are long and spindly and thin, almost like that of a scarecrow. They seem to quest and search, the nails scraping and screeching and scratching at the floorboards. And even in the darkness, you notice a faint glint of something on one of the fingers. And as the hands slowly quest around on the ground, like a mother searching a pond for the babies that she drowned, you look to see on one of the fingers, rattling around on a digit that does not fit, is a ring. A signet ring. One of a family that you recognize and know very well. The symbol on the ring itself seems to be that of a spider, sort of clutched, its long legs sort of clutched around an outstretched hand, kind of like this. Like here's the hand and here's the spider. Almost as if the spider is giving birth to this human hand. That is the symbol that you see on the signet ring. And you know this symbol very well. How could you forget the symbol of the woman who kept you as a slave for so many years? How could you forget the name of that family? You can't. And as the fear surges into your heart, the hands seem to realize that you recognize the ring, because they stop and they rise and they begin to grow closer to you as a voice like a zombie crawling from a dusty tomb begins to echo out all around you. And you hear a grave, familiar voice echoing out to you in the middle of the night. Where are you, my little rabbit? Where are you? Come back to Mommy, Dhuur'in. Come back to my loving arms, you ungrateful child. And slowly you hear the voice change from this almost sweet and light kind of voice to something gasping, something hoarse and just terrible, like a child trying to speak through a sickness that grows deeper and deeper and deeper. Come to me, 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 and bring back my book, you insignificant little sack of quivering man flesh. At this point, Dhuur'in, you begin to feel the sensation of falling. The floor seems to disappear from under you, and you watch as the arms vanish from sight as you sail down into the darkness, down and down, faster and faster, your arms stretching out to scrape against the walls that aren't there to try to slow your descent. You do anything to try to stop the falling. The voice, it doesn't stop, even as far away as it is, echoes all around you, demanding to come back, demanding its book back, demanding its sacrifice. Until finally you stop falling. You didn't hit the ground. The scene just sort of changed. Because there's no longer darkness all around you. In fact, it looks like you're outside. Outside on a road of paved cobblestone. The sun above you is bright, but it doesn't hurt your eyes like it normally does. It feels warm against your skin. Your skin. You feel your skin. It's exposed to the sunlight. Why? And you look down to see that your hand is not your own. Instead of the dark black flesh of the Drow kind, you see something bronze and coppery. You see a thicker hand, much healthier than your own, with black hair that rivulets up the arm, that terminates in a sleeve of a rawhide coat. As you look up around you, with eyes that are not your own, you look to see that as you stand on the road, surrounded by forest on either side with a little kind of stone fencing, there are 4 bandits in front of you, or you assume them to be bandits. They're dressed in archaic leathers, holding weapons of all kinds, swords and crossbows. One has a great longsword that he has rested over his shoulder, and they're all leering at you, taunting at you, taking experimental swipes and pokes and jabs. But you feel no fear. For once, you feel a smile tug on the side of your mouth. You feel a sort of confidence that you have never felt before. And finally, as these bandits continue to taunt you and scream at you in a language that you don't understand, your lips part, and you speak in a voice not your own. I'm afraid I ain't got time for you fellas. I got myself some stops to make. But if you really insist on dogging my steps like you've been the last few days, please do be my guest. After all, it's been fun, pretending I didn't notice you fellas watching me through the thicket. I'll admit, you're quiet. But boys, quiet don't mean nothing. Not against something as loud as daylight. There isn't enough time to even take a breath before you hear the sound of metal scraping against leather. No, not just metal. The steel of a gun. It flies from your holster. One breath. And in the second, there are 4 gunshots. You take a third breath. 4 bandits stand still, weapons clattering to the ground. A hole in their chests where their hearts might be. Before they even have time to hit the ground, you hear the sound of the cylinder of the gun whirling in its socket as you spin the gun in your hand and return it to its holster, upon which 4 bodies finally thump to the floor. And once again you speak. Ain't enough to be quiet, boys. Ain't enough at all. Sometimes you gotta be loud. Loud and as fierce as daylight. Back in the waking world, Nox.
Yeah, what's up?
You didn't have as restful a sleep as you'd like, because for a good portion of it, Dhuur'in was kind of thrashing around on his bed. You could hear
Yeah,
whimpering
everyone does.
and even the occasional scream that woke you from your slumber. And perhaps you were a bit worried about somebody filing a noise complaint of some form. But then something very strange happens. Dhuur'in falls still. His breathing is even and quiet. And when you finally look over at him, you see him in a prone position that you've never seen him before. He's asleep eyes closed and dry of tears, curled up against Gesh. Asleep, unmoving, and peaceful.
She sits up and squints and loudly whispers, "Are you dead?"
Silence.
She just kind of like squints for a couple of seconds. I assume like can see that he is breathing. But
She can.
yeah. But she's just like, and happily rolls over and goes back to sleep.
Okay, make a perception check for me.
A perception.
No sleep for Nox.
I still have instrument. Gonna continue to figure it out probably. Gonna use it 5 seconds. Okay.
Perceive me.
You will see 13.
13, okay. So as you roll over, on kind of like a dresser that's propped up against one of the walls, you see Courage of the Rose in its kind of like crooked, in kind of its crooked staff form, and you see it twitching, and
Gross.
you hear the wood clattering against the wood of the dresser, and then it clatters again and again and again, and finally it falls off.
Disgusting. There's like a sigh, and like
There's like a sign. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, you weren't done.
she goes she slides off the bed, grumbling to herself. And she kind of like, she doesn't really want to get off the bed, so she kind of just like scoots herself to the edge, extends a foot to like roll the staff closer to her so that she can grab it.
All right.
She picks it up.
So as you pick up the staff, you kind of feel it pulling almost, as if somebody's kind of like lightly tugging on the other end of it as you hold it. And your hand is naturally guided and pointed towards Dhuur'in's backpack.
Ooh.
That's my gun.
Oh. Wait, like, okay, so sorry. Like, is when she picks it up, like the staff is like leading her hand in that direction?
Yeah, pretty much. As you pick
Okay.
up Courage of the Rose, you feel the staff
Yeah.
kind of like tugging towards it, and
Like that scene from Princess Bride. Oh, a dog!
I had my
Oh,
sword,
dog!
father.
This is Peanut. This one's Peanut.
Hi,
And
Peanut.
Walter, come
Hi,
here.
Peanut.
Walter, I want to show you up to YouTube. Come here.
Walter!
And this is Walter.
Hi, Walter.
Walter, good boy. Good boy. Bye. Okay.
Where were
Anyway.
we?
The Princess Bride. Okay. Yeah. So so she feels this tug. It's very disconcerting. To be directed towards possessions of Dhuur'in after the number of times he's seen that fucking eye on that book blink at her. It's like, I don't want to do this. But she also knows by now she's had enough kind of time communing with Courage of the Rose that she kind of feels inclined to trust it in a way when it urges her thing. So there's like this moment of like, if someone were watching her, they would see this moment of her just being like, And as she like gets up off the bed, she kind of holds the staff close to her. She's very careful, quiet cat way as she goes over, and she like goes over to the backpack. She just like crouches next to it for a second to try to like feel what the staff is.
Okay. So as you get closer to Dhuur'in's backpack, you notice that there seems to be a vapor sort of just kind of lifting up from it, from one of the pockets. And as you smell it, you can tell that something inside is burning.
Oh. That's alarming. Her like expression goes from like a begrudging, like, what is this kind of thing, to like, oh fuck, something might be on fire. So then when she smells that, her eyes widen. She very quickly like kind of puts the staff down so that she can she just like puts it down at her side so that she can direct both hands to like figuring out what's on fire.
All right.
So she's going through the pack.
All right. So as you rip open the backpack and start to pull things out, you're able to very quickly find what's inside that's causing the burning. You find Dhuur'in's newest and strangest book, the one that seems to be made of skin. You can hear it hissing and gurgling as you open up the pack to stare inside. You see the eye, the lizard-like eye, within the massive blue rippling scales, kind of like darting from all sides as it seems to hiss and cry in pain. And there's a good reason that it's hissing and crying in pain. Because the very strange and angular weapon, the very strange and angular artifact that Borgub had given to Dhuur'in when you first met him, is resting on the book cover. And where the gun touches the book hisses and sizzles and smokes. And so you're watching this and you hear the book just
There's like a slightly like panic / odd, and she quickly she will she does not want to touch the book. Listen, she does not want to touch the book at all. There's no desire to even have her finger graze the book. So she's gonna like, it's like a claw machine at Dave and Buster's, the way that she like tries to like get the gun without touching the book literally at all. So she like with her claws is gonna like just pick up the gun and try to lift it out of the pack without even grazing the book that's underneath. But she is gonna take the gun out.
So as you lift the gun off the book, you see that it's left kind of this black scorch mark in the perfect shape of a gun on the front of the book. And you also see that a bit of melted skin, kind of stringy skin, kind of like pulls away from the gun and the book. But the skin doesn't stay on the gun, because wherever it touches the gun, the skin like sizzles away like melting plastic and then just drops down, leaving the gun entirely clean and untouched by anything organic. But in your hand, the gun isn't hot like you think it would be. It's just warm and heavy, almost reassuring in its weight.
I would like to use a spell slot to cast Identify.
Okay, go ahead.
So there is just pure like disgust at the fleshy, like as soon as the gun is like clear of the pack, she like very kind of hurriedly flips over the like the cover or the upper flap to the backpack to like close it so that she doesn't have to look at that shit.
Okay.
close that. But then she has the gun in her, and she looks at it for a second. She looks at her staff, which is still just kind of like sitting on the ground by her. And she looks over at Dhuur'in, who I assume. And then she will like look back at the gun curiously. I imagine that she also hasn't really had a lot of experience with gun, period. So
Guns are sort of a new type of weapon in both Wildmount and Exandria proper. You can tell as you look at this is some sort of like customized flintlock variant. It's clearly powered by black powder, but it's designed in such a way that you can get off 4 shots before needing to reload because of the cylinder. But you can also tell it's very old, very ancient. Parts of it are rusted. The wood looks like it's about to fall off, if not held there by the screw. The firing hammer just sort of like rattles around in the air as if it's loose. But you're casting detect magic? Identify?
Yeah, or identify. Yeah. So so that's 90% of it. Her curiosity is kind of winning over her disgust and fear. Largely just simply just because this is a weapon that she doesn't have. It's with the fact that it looks so very attractive to her, because in her experience, old things, have most stories. So as her kind of fear and unease kind of dies down, curious about this, she kind of puts one, holding it by the me not knowing anything about guns, the grip, I guess.
Yeah.
The part that you hold.
Yeah.
She's holding it in one hand, and then her other hand she kind of like holds the barrel and closes her hands around it a little bit. She's being careful because, as with most of her magic, she kind of hums the short melody that invokes this spell and tries to get a
All
see.
right.
Because
So, as you attune your words to the magic that they produce, as you feel yourself connecting to the weave by way of your music, you close your eyes, expecting to open them again to know everything about the weapon you hold in your hand. That is, until you feel somebody touch your hand. Your eyes open to find that both of your hands are clasped in a pair of rawhide leather gloves. You look up, and you see that crouching before you is a man. An elf by the look of his ears, with bronze skin, a black beard and a goatee, and a wide-brimmed hat, and eyes that glow a peaceful golden yellow. He smiles at you, his long leather coat billowing in the wind that can't possibly be there, as light sort of emanates and radiates off of him. He smiles, pats your hand, and says, "Not just yet, darling. You'll find out soon enough. But not just yet." And he snaps his fingers. And as soon as he does, Nox, you shoot awake in your bed, with the light of morning kind of breaking through the window.
The first thing she does is she kind of like sits up in a bit of a startle, and she looks over to the other.
To the other bed? Sorry,
to Dhuur'in and Gesh.
The very last word of your sentences keeps getting cut out, so I just want to make
sorry.
Sure. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Gesh and Dhuur'in still asleep. Still, Dhuur'in looking very peaceful. Dhuur'in has kind of like Where he was once like resting peacefully, sort of almost romantically by Gesh's side, he's now kind of like sprawled out on his lap with just like tongue out, just
No.
Gesh unmoved completely.
Gesh does not care. She does this, and then the next thing she does is look for courage on the dresser.
Courage is right by your side on the bed. In fact,
Oh.
someone has, it's still in his like staff form. Someone has pulled a blanket over it and rested like the bendy part of the staff on a pillow.
Tucked him in.
Tucked it in. Oh. And then the last thing that she will look for is the backpack that she rifled to see if it's still on the floor.
The backpack is still on the floor. It's been closed, but you can detect a slight smoky smell. You don't see any vapors. You don't see any vapors. You don't see any smoke. You just smell it.
Okay, you said smoky, not milky, because that was going to be a whole other thing. I was about to get really upset.
That is different. That's a different thing. That's the second campaign.
Oh God, the milk. She kind of looks. She looks down like at herself. She looks at Courage. Kind of alarmed, but like, you know, not like extremely alarmed. Just kind of like, oh, well, that was a. And then she will get out of bed. Leaving Courage where it is. She's just gonna go a little bit closer to the pack just to see if she can still hear horrid hissing from within.
As you approach the backpack, you can't, but Dhuur'in, give me a perception check.
I don't have my page pulled up, but I'm pretty sure my perception is +2.
All right.
12.
You snap
Ew.
awake after you hear a floorboard creak.
I dart my eyes over to Nox because she's standing up, and I see she's going towards my pack, and I start getting out of bed. I throw my legs over the side of the bed and don't touch that!
She was like kind of near it, like leaning over to try to listen. She's still standing. She's not like crouching by it, but she stops. She looks over it, and there's like a brief moment of alarm in her eyes before her expression just kind of like moves back into her normal casual aura. She puts her hands up and she says, "I'm not going to touch it. I'm just... Do you smell that?"
I sniff the air.
Now that you're closer to the backpack, you're both getting like a pretty good, strong smell of not just smoke, but like kind of cooked meat.
Oh,
I hurriedly start pulling things out of my bag.
All right. So, Nox, you watch as Dhuur'in starts to like pour into his backpack, and Dhuur'in, when you get to your Book of Shadows, there's a strange shape singed onto the very front. A shape you recognize.
I start patting around in the pack for the gun.
You eventually find the gun. The gun, curiously enough, wrapped up in a piece of cloth like you last left it. And seemingly undamaged, save for like the age and the rust that clearly overtakes it. The mechanism's kind of like rattling around in your hand as you like lift and check it.
Ugh. And I put the gun down and I gently pat the Book of Shadows like, it's okay.
Silence. Silence. Where You know how when you pet like when you start scratching the back of like a hairless cat and the skin starts to bunch up? That when you touch the spine, it starts to do that a little bit.
I hold it really close and I look down at the gun. Oh, I need another bag.
Nox
Alright.
is looking clear disgust. Just at the book, at the disgustingness of the book. And she's quiet for a second. Like if Dhuur'in were paying attention, he would see that she's very clearly like debating, say, for a second, and then eventually says, "Dark One, have you ever met a gunslinger?"
You saw him!
Her eyes like get a little bit wide, and she says, "Well, I was trying to be subtle, but okay. I did. You've seen him too?
Yes, many times.
The elf with the hat?
With the hat and the coat and the gloves. Yes, you
Yes, the
saw
coat.
him.
Yes, the gloves. Yes."
I'm ecstatic. We speak to you.
She hums and says, "I did hear his voice, but yes, nothing particularly, just told me to wait."
I'm imagining, meanwhile, in the other room, Fenkin's trying to like wake the two shorties up, but it's just not working.
Poor Fen.
Speak very cryptically, but it is always insightful.
He is tied to the gun. Yes?
I think so. It was the gun that he used. The gun that I saw that exploded in bright light against that sea thing.
She nods a little bit and says, "There is an entity residing my weapon too." And she nods back towards where Courage is still tucked in all nicely in bed. She says, "Although I have heard its voice, but he has not appeared in front of me in the same way that I have for guns. Do you know where it comes from?"
I think it comes from the book. Not this book.
Is yes, no. The sin of the lion. That's book.
Yes, and I say the title in Undercommon.
Yeah. she just like, you just see like her ears like flick in annoyance, and she's like, "Yes, that's one." I was gonna have her say, forgot what I was, whatever.
His name is Dorn.
Is Dor?
Dorn. Dorn.
Dorn.
Robo Dorn.
And who is he in this book of?
I think he is a savior.
Of whom?
Of people.
She is quiet for a second, and she looks at the gross book the burn grossness on it. And he says, tell me something. In your relation with your god, is there room for the hands of fate? Or is everything already
I don't know. My dreams have been changing. And when I see him, as opposed to it, it is a more restful sleep. I'm trying not to think about it too hard.
It's at this moment you guys see Gesh. You hear like a creaking sound, and you turn over to see that Gesh has like tilted over on the bed. He's still like completely static and like in his meditative state, but he's just like kind of like on his side now.
Good morning.
Silence.
She looks at Gash. Looks back at. Does it make you afraid?
Yes.
She nods a little. She kind of like shifts back, kind of starts going back towards her bed. But as she moves, she still is speaking. I understand. Change frightens you some, but when fate is pulling you your way or towards particular, it is often a good idea to listen. In my,
I have
he's going. Go ahead.
I just said I have been listening.
Suppose you have. You have carrying this gun. Do you know how to fire a gun?
I don't know what a gun is.
It is
I
that.
just know that this is that. It
That-
was
yes.
in the book.
That is a gun. Correct. You've never seen one fired?
No.
She hums a little bit and she's going back over to her bed, but she's clearly not like there's no getting back in. Kind of like pulls the sheets up to kind of somewhat make it. Not really, but like, and as she's doing, well, when we have some time, maybe you should get acquainted with this new weapon. It clearly wants to be acquainted with you.
Yes.
All right. And with that, we move over to the next room where Fenkin. You know how cats will sometimes awaken their owners by sitting on their chests and kind of pawing at their face? In your slumber, you've had bad dreams of something weighing you down and choking out your breath. But that's because in the morning, Nilo has kind of situated himself on top of you. And he's kind of like cocking his head back and forth. And finally, one big frying pan paw comes up and just on your face.
Milo! Oh, that was good, Connor. Oh my god.
Thank you.
That sounded so right. Oh, wow. Yes. He just kind of reaches up and he tries to like move his very heavy paw out of his face and just like squints at him like, what? He just blinks. He's newly awakened and like still like his eyes are still sleep heavy and he's like, are you hungry? And then he just kind of sits up, like tries to sit up and push him away.
All right. So he hops off, and as you kind of sit up in your bed, you look over to see that Borgum and Ozla are kind of like almost intertwined in the bed. Ozla has kind of like situated herself so she's kind of like resting her head on Borgub's chest, and Borgub, very much asleep on the pillow, has his one arm has kind of like fallen over her, while the other is kind of like up here.
He sits up and he's sort of like holding over his chest because he still feels the lingering heaviness on it. And then he just looks at the bed like, and he stares for a bit in like surprise. And then there's a slight smile on his lips. He's just like, he looks a little cocky almost. And he just watches them for a while, and then he stands up and like starts brushing his clothes off and fixing his hair, and then he goes to get dressed.
Okay. So we will say that about an hour or so passes, and everybody sort of finally wakes up. Borgub and Ozza, when they wake up, Borgub is the first to wake up, and when he kind of realizes what situation he's in, he kind of like panics and gently like squirms away. But we'll say that being the first to awaken, Nox, Dhuur'in, and Gesh are the first downstairs to the Mudhole Tavern for breakfast. And unlike a lot of taverns that you've been to so far, where there's usually a lot of people there for breakfast, it seems like you kind of have the run of the lot, as it were, right now. You seem to be the only ones there at the moment. Even so, the old dwarf who runs the bar is still there cleaning his cups and kind of nods at you guys when you make your way down, wordlessly making his way to your table and passing some of the parchment menus towards you. And eventually, you are once more joined by Fenkin, Ozla, and Borgub, along with Nilo and Princess. Princess, who is riding on Nilo's back.
I ordered a potato dish and ale that Gesh will be paying for.
There is a famous potato dish that's made in the Empire. The name escapes me at the moment, but it's similar to a corned beef hash with heavy horseradish sauce. So that's what you are eventually brought, along with like a big old big old stein of beer to sip on. But yeah, so yeah, as you all kind of sit down for breakfast, which once again Borgub happily pays for. And as he does so, he doesn't really. Whenever his eyes kind of like pass over everybody, but when he gets to Ozla, he just kind of, eventually though, as the meals are brought out and everybody kind of like starts to wake up a bit more and starts to kind of like kick into their dinners. Nox, do you want to take it from here?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so Nox has ordered. She literally just asked. She was like, the other nights you brought out the blocks of cheese to put in the. Can I just have the block of? And whatever amount of money they told her was necessary to make that happen, she asked Borgub for. So, assuming all went well.
The dwarf who was like about to pour you a coffee kind of stops, and he's like, "Yeah, all right, sure." And he pours you the coffee, and eventually comes back with like half a wheel of cheese. The front of the half of which that's been cut, you can see is kind of like the molten cheese has kind of like condensed and solidified, but it's still very much cheese. And he kind of just like curiously puts that on the table for you, and Borgub nods and pushes him some gold pieces.
It's perfect. It's exactly what. Yeah. So she's just been kind of like munching on pieces of cheese, and kind of with her feet up on like the seat of whoever's across from her, who I'm gonna say is Fenkin, because I just like the idea. Constantly putting her feet to bother him. Yeah, exactly. So she's just been kind of, lounging. Gives it some time as they all eat, and then eventually she will say, "Friends, I have received a proposition that I would like to discuss with the." Everyone just tilts their heads at her.
Proposition?
Yes. You see, when I was incarcerated, waiting for the lot of you to tie your whatever so long, I met an individual incarcerated along with another Tabaxi. He called himself Midnight. And while we were there, passing, he told me that he knew a way to get us to where we are going out of Trostenwald faster than it would take ordinarily. And she pauses for a second and looks around at their faces, and which is interesting in and of itself. But what is more pressing about it is that he was aware of the true identity of one of our, and she looks.
Could you say that last part again? You kind of cut out.
Oh, sorry. She says, he was aware of the true identity of one of our, and she looks at Borgub as she says that.
Borgub, who has his hat disguise on, he kind of like freezes mid biscuit,
Biscuit.
and he kind of like leans forward. He knew about me.
Yes. Not specifics, not your name or place of origin, but he knew that you, who you really are, was among.
Has he told anyone?
Well, if he had, I would transguard with. So, likely not.
Kind of reassured, but not really. Borgub kind of like,
But not really.
but leans back and like kind of rubs his shoulder.
She sighs and kind of like adjusts her feet on Fenkin's chair and continues. So the deal that he proposed is this. In 2 days' time, or closer to 1 day, he would like us to meet him on the outskirts of the city. And if we do so, he will escort us out far faster than the weeks it would. However, and she kind of like draws in a breath and sighs and says, I have dealt with a great many men like him in my lifetime. Salesmen. And while I do not think he was lying about what he possessed, I certainly do not trust any man of his stuff. So I tried to find out if he would allow for me to meet him first to see if what he says he possesses is true. He said it would not be possible. All of us would have to, or not. And we simply travel on horseback as we were originally. So that is the deal I was. What do you think?
We have to go. I'm sorry, but we have to.
You called him a salesman, so what did he want in return?
I asked that as well, but he told me it would simply be a favor to another of his. I do not believe that.
Sorry, I didn't hear
Connor, what are you doing with that comb?
And we should go with weapons bared and kill him if he lied.
That
Do
is
we
true.
know how he's? Do we know how he's going to get us there?
I would guess some sort of arcane. I cannot imagine any mundane means that would allow us to travel such a distance. There is another option that I can, which is admittedly a bit of a risk, but I had considered perhaps Sting to see how he would respond if a member of the Crown's Guard before we.
So, you're saying send the Crown's Guard before us?
Or send somebody who looks. She like folds her hands behind her head, is quiet for a second, and she says, "Me, I mean me. I would disguise me."
Do you look like a Crown's Guard?
Not right now.
Like me?
There are a great many tricks I have up my sleeve.
Do you have a hat like mine, Miss Knox?
Not something so. She kind of like hums for a second, considering how to like. He says, "I will put it this way: people of my profession have a great many ways to disguise themselves. But simply, I know a spell that I think would do the. If I were to do it, I could approach him, see if a little bit of pressure makes him reveal the fact that there is a, how should I say, smuggled individual that he is aware of. And if he does not reveal that into the cloud, then I would consider him more trustworthy. Trustworthy enough to bring the rest of. But that is merely an idea. And like I said, it has risk, as if he were to see who I truly am, I do not know how he would.
This, whatever means he has of transporting us, what would stop him from using it on himself, seeing that he notices the danger of being approached by a Crown's Guard?
That is true. That is a point. But knowing what little I know about him, and more importantly, knowing the stock of people that I suspect, I do not think he would run at the first sign of. I think it would be more fitting to his profession, pride, to talk his way out. His greatest weapon, as with many of my, is his tongue. But you are right.
I think Ozla should make a decision.
Me!
You're the one leading this operation.
I was leader for one day. It's back to Knox.
He just rolls his eyes like.
I'm not good with decisions, anyways.
We wanted to go immediately.
I did. But this is difficult.
Then how about we make the most impacted one make a decision? He says, and then he looks at Borga.
Me?
Yes, you?
But why me?
You're the one whose identity is at risk here. You have the most to lose, I would say.
Well, if it were up to me, I'd like to get out of Trostenwald as fast as I can, considering somebody knows what I am now. And I will admit, part of me is really excited about the chance of seeing the coast again, seeing the coast so soon. So if Miss Knox is right, and she usually is, I've seen, maybe we can trust him. So I think, if that's okay with you, that we should. Hey, Ethan's here.
Ethan!
Hi.
Hi, Ethan.
There he is.
Don't
worry, you haven't put her in yet.
So what?
Yeah. So
have I missed everything then, or?
I'm gonna get something to drink really quick. Does anybody want to get Ethan up to speed really fast for me?
Yeah.
And then we'll pick back up with Borg when I get back.
Yeah.
All right.
Borg up.
Okay.
So we came back to the tavern. Gesh and Dhuur'in shared a bed and with Nox in the room, and Borgub and Ozla shared a bed with Fenkin in a room. Dhuur'in laid out all his books, kind of just leafed through them. Nothing really happened. The skin book can kind of talk a little bit, like weird hissy words. And the Book of Azathos is really difficult to look at. I had a horrible thrashing nightmare that you slept through about
Cool.
the mistress and her creepy ring yelling at me because she wants her shit back and also wants me back. And then it turned into a dream about Thorn, the Sunslinger. And then Nox noticed that something in my bag was burning, which was my gun on my skin book. When they touch, it burns my skin book, but the gun is totally fine.
Okay.
Nox tried to cast Identify on the gun, and Dorn appeared to her and told her, "Not yet. You'll find out soon enough." So we talked about that a little bit. I got super excited that somebody else was seeing things. Nilo apt Fenkin awake, and then we all went down for breakfast. Nox told us about her deal with Midnight and how he can potentially get us to the coast faster. And we're all kind of gung-ho for it, but nervous that he knows that Borgub is a goblin. When we were discussing plans to see if he's legit, Nox suggested disguising herself as a guard to go see if she could go put the pressure on and see if he's gonna turn us in. And now we are leaving the decision up to Borgub on how we should approach the situation. And we have assumed that Gesh is being the strong and silent monk that he is throughout the conversation.
Okay, cool. So I really thought I'd miss more than this, but
No, it's only been an hour into it. Well,
Yeah.
2.
oh yeah.
We were for sure spooning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Important
Cool.
thing.
Yeah, so it just feels longer. Yeah.
All right. In that case, where Borgub left off.
Wait, I don't think
Huh?
Yeah, M's back now.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So Borgub left off with saying, I think we should take him up and just at least see what he has to offer, because I've seen what you're all capable of, and if things do go south, we can probably get ourselves out of it. You're all just really amazing, so I trust you.
As long as you stay back.
I will.
Nox nods a little bit, but she is frowning. She says, "Well, it is true. I think we could handle whatever midnight leave were he to. We must consider that if he were to let the guards know truly happening, it is not just a matter of fighting or fighting a small number. What we are committing at that point becomes something that the guards might sue us.
Well,
Understand?
if the guards couldn't beat the basilisk, then we could beat the basilisk. I don't see what problem we could really have.
Piccolo couldn't beat Goku, and Goku couldn't beat Broly, so Piccolo can't beat Broly.
That is fair.
That's, yeah. Circle logic, it's wonderful.
For once, I agree with the Dragonborn.
So, Sophie, where'd you go?
I knocked all my
God.
shit off my desk. It scared me.
No.
It was like red nail polish, and I was like, oh god, I have a white floor.
Okay.
I'm back now.
So, the final decision?
Seems like
kind of.
a
Oh, yeah. Sorry. You said
I pull out my scroll case and one of my ink pens, and I start drawing something while we're talking.
Nox is just like listening, like she listened to Borgub, she listened to Gesh. Okay, well, if it is a risk that you are willing to take, and we are understanding of what are you doing?
I will tell you in a minute. Let me focus.
You
She
coloring?
looks. She tries to lean and see what he's drawing.
It's the symbol on the signet ring.
Oh.
Oh,
No.
she has no idea what it is. So she just, okay, he's drawing some weird shit. Whatever.
I'll tell you in a minute.
She's like, anyway, fine. If we are in agreement, we're all understanding of the risks, particularly the risks to our. Then we must go together, all of us, about 1.5.
It would just be one day by now.
Oh, is it just one day? Okay.
Yeah.
1 day's
All right. So is everybody?
I have
Let's go ahead.
a request also.
Yes.
I put the paper down with the symbol of the signet ring of my mistress.
What lays before
And
you? What lays before you all is an ink drawing done by Dhuur'in of kind of like a stylistic spider symbol with its legs clasped around an outstretched human hand.
Should we see this symbol anywhere, any that bear it must die.
All right. I can agree to that.
What's the symbol for?
A terrible people.
Not specific, but okay.
I shan't ask any questions.
Do you have reason to think you are being pursued?
We're already all being pursued. What's one more?
All of that.
Well, we all stick around you, little one. So yes, yeah.
Hey, watch.
I'm just curious. Like I know I'm being pursued. Are you being pursued?
Not in the same way.
The old
You are.
ghost that I told you about from the dream. I fear she draws closer.
How close are we talking about?
The hands in my dream almost grasped me. She is looking for me. And my book.
The book you carry around. Wait, how many
Yes.
books do you have?
I go through my bag and I count them. 4.
The skin book or the other one?
Other one that you must not touch.
I also do not want to touch the skin.
You should not.
Okay, I will not.
All right. So it sounds like the shepherds are in agreement to go take Midnight up on his offer in 1 day's time. In that
Yes.
case, we're going to take a short 10-minute break here, and when we come back, we will do a quick time skip that I will describe, and then we will continue on with our game. All right.
Yay!
All right.
Okay, I mean, I just got back. But, okay.
10 minutes.